Hello and welcome to another episode of New Game Plus. I'm Jason. I'm joined by Megan. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome.
Well, you're hearing a lot of this episode actually. I think you're in both reviews. That's right, yeah.
It's exciting. I've been getting really hands-on with all this.
You have, and
a busy time of year.
hands-on because video game. Yeah. But it's not just all about the Megan show. We do have reviews, of course, of Way Out and Extinction.
Yeah.
But we also have Shaney coming in to give us a little bit of a rant about the fighting game community.
Yeah, and the rise of Dragonball Z.
And Jamie gives us one of his focus attack segments. So
I love this topic. It's pretty good.
It is.
Movie adaptations from video games,
Correct.
basically. And some are great and some just really miss the mark.
And that is a pretty accurate assessment of that whole situation. So it is, again, another great episode of New Game Plus. We're probably going straight into Way Out. We mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Co-op games seem to still be the gaming medium du jour.
It is legit one of the best games I've played this year, and I can't wait to show you all about it.
It's spoiling your review, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Check it out now.
What's your plan?
Now, one of the more memorable moments of recent gaming history was, of course, the Video Game Awards, where the developers of A Way Out came out on stage and said some very interesting things about their publisher. Not the best business move, but luckily, it sounds like the game survived in one piece. And I've got Megan to join me today to discuss that. Hello, Megan.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Very good.
Yeah, I bet you're much better than the characters in this game.
What does that mean?
You're free. You're a free man.
Yeah, it's true. I am.
Have you ever watched Prison Break before?
I have.
I have always kind of wondered what it looks like, prison looks like from the inside as a prisoner. And this game really gives you a great insight, kind of like as a first-person view of what it's really like to escape from prison.
So that is the core premise. You play two characters. Was it Leo Caruso?
Yes, and Vincent Moretti.
I knew it was some Italian name. I knew I was going to forget it.
So this game's done by Hazelight Studios, who also did Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
Yes.
And there's a lot of beautiful nuances in there that really pay homage to their roots, which is really great. But essentially, these two men, it's a two-player game and only two-player, which is like online or like couch co-op. But essentially, you play as one of the two. Both have really different character traits, which makes it a really unique story. Yep. And they have so much in common, but they don't know it yet. And as the story unravels, you help each other escape. You realize that you're in jail by the same bad guy called Harvey, and you tag together to get out and get revenge.
And it is such a simple concept, and I think that's what works for it, is the fact they went from, obviously Brothers, where it was a little bit more fanciful.
It was beautiful, yes.
Yeah,
this is really gritty.
It's grounded and it's gritty. Yeah. And I think having the couch, because obviously the concern is it's a couch co-op game with online co-op from EA.
Yeah.
But you don't have to buy it.
It's the best thing about it. Whenever you buy one copy of the game, it comes with one free copy for your mate. Yep. It doesn't matter if it's on the same console or not. Yep. You can send a digital code off and download it.
Yeah, and basically it allows them to play the trial as long as they're playing with you.
Yes,
I believe is how it works. And
so it's amazing. It's a great concept.
And I guess that is the thing. A lot of those games live or die on the fact that you interact with the story and you feel compelled to the characters. Yeah. And it seems like across the course of the journey, they really do start to flesh out these characters.
I've got to say, not only are the graphics absolutely gorgeous, it suits this game absolutely incredibly, but escaping the prison is 1/3 of the game. The story takes some fantastic twists, and I have to say, fantastic, in capitals. It is really exciting. And those adrenaline moments where you are literally on the edge of your seat because timing is unequivocally you have to make sure it's timed perfectly. You actually have to communicate with the other player to get everything done. It's the best.
Well, and again, we've come from the world of co-op shooters where basically all you have to do is make sure you don't blow up the same thing, and it's fine. So having this where it is, as you say, each one's got their own particular skills, so you have to utilize it. It's a little bit kind of Lost Vikings in that sense. Yeah. But obviously, it's got that gritty, grounded reality to go with it.
I love it. It's 5 out of 5 for me. Literally, if you haven't played it and you're on the fence, do yourself a favor and get amongst it. It's the best.
Easy done.
Hello and welcome to Supernova. I am with two of your favourite stars from the 100. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yes. I'm Bob Morley. I play Bellamy Blake on the 100.
I'm Lindsay Morgan. I play Ruben Reyes on the 100.
And I'd like to start by congratulating you both on surviving the reaping. Everyone seems to just keep dying.
Yeah.
Not us.
yeah. Except the main characters.
Except us.
Except the ones on the title card.
Yes.
That does help. Now, it seems like a pretty emotionally heavy show. How do you kind of deal with all of that?
Therapy.
Yeah. Well, I actually think we're all kind of goofballs. I think we kind of because the show's so heavy, it's actually made us mentally immature.
Yeah. Unstable.
Yeah.
Good. Glad to have a coping mechanism. Oh, Now, there's been...
Actually crying on the inside.
Always, yeah.
Yes.
Aren't we all, really? Oh, so you guys have done some pretty epic stunts on the show. Have there been any crazy injuries or just injuries that you've... Yeah?
I mean, Maria almost got her eye stabbed out with a spear. That was bad. She had an eye patch for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that was really bad, actually.
You hurt your shoulder.
I hurt my rotator cuff. I did my knee season 1, broke my hand season 3.
That's right. But
Yeah.
that wasn't a stunt's fault.
That wasn't the stunt. I know that. You know, they rigged up the tree for me to punch.
Yes.
And then they were like, oh, look, it's out of shot, so can you just punch this metal crate? And so I was like, sure. And they put a pad like this thick there. But you know, it was totally up to me to like how hard I wanted to hit it.
And you really went for it.
And I went for it. And I broke my hand.
Damn.
And then Marie didn't hit her mark, and I was like, get back on your mark. My hand is swelling up.
Well, you could take the boy out of chitin, but not chitin out of the boy.
No.
Idiot.
Oh, have you guys seen any of the fan art or the fan fiction from the show?
I've seen fan art, but
I've seen some fan fiction.
I haven't read any fan
I
fiction.
haven't read it. I've just...
Oh yeah, you write it.
That's true. I do have a secret pen name, an anonymous pen name. I'm all over Tumblr.
I have to look out for that.
I don't understand how Tumblr works. You know, I've tried to look myself up on Tumblr, and I don't know how it works.
First, you have to write fan fiction, then you have to upload it, and then you're allowed in.
You're allowed in?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you
It's a
can't
secret
look at
society.
it.
Yeah, secret society.
Really?
No.
No.
Oh.
It's mostly about the gifts.
All about the gifts.
Yeah.
Not gifts. Gifts.
GIFs.
Gifs.
Oh, the soul. I could feel it dying.
Just killed her.
What?
Oh, so what do you think we're going to see coming up on season 5? What can you tell us? What spoilers can you give? Ruin the whole thing.
Everybody wants spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
I'm so confused. It's like, no spoilers. And if you do spoil something, you're like,
But
dead.
that's-
They're like,
and you know-
way to spoil it.
Yeah.
But then literally every interview, it's like, can you give us a spoiler?
But how is the spoiler work? Like,
confused.
it's like this. If you're a storyteller and you're like, you know what, I'm going to tell you the ending, and then let me stop.
And then hope you watch.
Okay.
It's the journey that matters, though, surely.
Exactly. But yeah,
Then
you
why
want
do
to
you
get
want
to
to know
that.
what happens at the end?
Yeah.
It's emotionally traumatizing.
Well,
Why do you want
you're
to
gonna have to get
know?
over
What do you
it.
want to know for?
You're gonna have to get over it.
To find out if people I like are going to live.
No, everyone dies.
Okay, that is true.
Whoa.
Like us.
Yep.
Truth
Just
bomb.
joking. That's the truth, though.
That is a truth dumb. We all are gonna die.
Yeah.
someday.
It's getting real deep now. Now, Bob, we were kind of reminiscing before about growing up in an area filled with preppers in the Macedon Ranges.
Oh,
Sorry, what's a prepper?
prepper like prepping for the end of the world. Yeah.
Wait, this is your hometown?
Oh.
Yeah.
So you've been
No, I
you've
don't know.
been
I don't know.
prepping
Like we grew
for
up in the same
ballet.
area, but you grew up in the mountains. You're one of the mountain people.
Yeah.
I'm one of these.
there's
I'm one
so
of the people from the plains.
But wait,
we don't
there's-
prep.
There's so many people that are fully ready for the end of the world. They have a name called preppers.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole show about it.
There's a show.
Have you seen that movie Taking Shelter? What is it? Yeah, with what's that guy's?
And I
Michael
have
Shannon.
Heard of it,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen it.
No,
It's all
I
about the
have not
preppers.
seen a prepper in Kyneton. Yeah, those guys don't even like prepare for dinner, you know, just let alone the end of the world.
Yeah. Like, do you think that the 100 could happen?
I watched this documentary called AI Go, and it's about they created this computer program that can play Go, like the ancient I think it's Chinese game, and it started like developing its own thoughts and all that kind of stuff. And,
yeah.
Yeah, it's only I think that might
Well,
only be
AI
another time.
intelligence is literally at the brink of the
Yeah.
human intelligence. Like, it's absolutely insane what achievement they have made in that science and technology. But as far as like the end of the world and nuclear war happening and us living in a space station and
I
sending
don't know. You
kids
see what's
down-
going on in the South China Sea?
What's
I love this stuff.
I do. Who does?
I don't know. I'm really into. Yeah, I'm a real prepper. And you know what? I've started to get really into the Cold War.
And prepping?
And I feel like there's an era of the Cold War coming on.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Well, at least you know what's happening. And at least you've kind of experienced the worst of what the end of the world has to offer.
Yeah, like 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool though.
It's
We
cool.
got it.
Yeah.
Figured it out.
What kind of apocalypse would you want to experience next in the show, given you've had such a variety already?
A water.
Koala.
Oh, like a lot of koalas. A giant koala, like a Godzilla koala.
No, like a lot of like mini ones.
Like tiny ones, not even as big as a normal koala.
No, even smaller.
I'd like a water apocalypse.
Octopus.
A water apocalypse, and like somehow we end up
You
at
want to
like
film in water? I
Hawaii.
hate that. Hawaii would be cool.
Yeah.
I like filming in water. I'd be down for that.
A little splish splash.
A little splish splash while I was
I
taking
could
a
do
bath.
that.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. You guys have
Thank
been
you.
great.
Thank you.
And good luck with season 5.
Thank you very much.
So normally we come into Shane's Worlds and it's usually us picking the scabs off various scars that the games have inflicted. Is that fair to say?
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not probably, it's 100% what
yes,
it
it
is. But this time we come to it with a little bit of a happier topic.
Because I kind of chose the topic,
You
which
did.
helps.
It does help a little bit. The topic, of course, is Dragon Ball Z Fighters.
The rise of Dragon Ball FighterZ, or FighterZ, I don't know which one to really call it. It doesn't matter.
Porky? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but like how it actually just blew up from release, it's such an amazing game.
And if you think of it, the parts are there.
Yeah.
Realistically, you look at it, it is a game based on probably the most popular, definitely the most popular shonen anime and manga of all time. I'm sure there's someone who'll bring up some obscure figure to beat me on it. It's made by Arc System Works, who are known for their really intensive, mechanic intensive fighting games. And it happened to just fall into a gap where Marvel vs. Capcom said, yeah, we're dead.
Yeah, it kind of.
And that's the big thing. That's probably the thing that allowed it to achieve the success that it
It's
has.
true. Like it was such a very much almost one-to-one kind of thing to Marvel 3.
Yes.
That like people were like, is this going to be too much, very much like infinite kind of clash?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
which one is going to be the rising of the major like game? Because we've got like, Street Fighter 5 still there.
Yeah.
We've got our Tekken 7.
Yeah.
Smash. Is that?
Well, Smash is its own thing.
Smash is its
yeah.
own thing, let's be honest. But then, yeah, Marvel versus Capcom Infinite kind of just left a gap.
The problem became twofold. Number
Yeah.
one, Capcom has succeeded luckily in other avenues. Monster Hunter was a success. Resident Evil 7 was a success. They've released the Dante collection. They would have made some more sales off that, right? So they are a little bit coat writing, but they have made some decent games in the last 2 years. Marvel vs. Capcom came out at the time just after the Disney buyout.
Yeah.
So we've got that to begin with. So now you're contending with two different sets of legal teams, all the nonsense that goes with that. Then all of the characters they announce are all characters that just happen to be coming up in Marvel movies. And who cares? Like, if you're avoiding the memes of Magneto, Sentinel, Wolverine, Storm, I guess, you can't make a game without X-Men.
Yeah.
And you can announce and say the first season DLC is X-Men, but that's lame. And the people who are going to play it, like the Poverty FGC, are not going to be on board for that. So you've ignored the core audience for the game that you're trying to release, and then you wonder why it struggles. This is an injustice. You can't get away with it like you could with the DC kids.
It's true. It's basically dug its own grave. That's the problem here. Like, it could have been an all-right game, except that, its release was not great because most of the models were not very great. It's really, especially the Capcom side. Marvel side, everything was nice there.
That's
It's
big
like,
tell the effort had gone into it.
yeah, which you'd think how much Disney kind of controlled
Correct.
that, which is kind of the scary part.
Again, and that is the problem that we face.
Yeah.
So we have this gap in the market. Dragon Ball Z unites the tribes, brings everyone into that. But we've got to remember that, like, as you mentioned before, Street Fighter is still the biggest one.
Yeah.
We can talk figures, we can talk numbers, but if you say Street Fighter, people know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Tekken is second,
Yeah.
I would say. And it is grown, it is one of those that has grown from community support. I would argue that the strength of this game has been the fact that everyone seems to embrace it.
I think Bandai Namco has actually really, really done well with their tournament space side.
Yep.
Like, they got the best stuff from like Street Fighter and then improved on a few things and just
Their launch as well wasn't as rushed. They staggered their launch every year, made it a lot better.
an arcade launch. Like, who would have thought that actually would have worked in like Japan and stuff?
I know,
But hey,
it's crazy.
it still
crazy.
works. Still works.
Then Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z is now the third game. And you've got to look at the companies that we're talking about. We've mentioned Capcom.
Yeah.
Namco Bandai, huge entertainment company in Japan, not just limited to video games.
Yeah.
Hold basically all the anime, the Shonen Jump video game
Yeah.
licenses. And hence why this is a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Made by Arc System Works, who, while they make other games, are known predominantly for their fighting games.
Yeah, and I think this is probably the rise of them. Let's be
Yes.
honest. They were kind of a niche. Let's put it out there.
They've been for years.
They've
Like
been a
Guilty
niche-
Gear,
yeah,
Blaze Blue.
Guilty Gear, Blaze Blue, even like Arcana Hearts and stuff like that.
love Arcana Hearts.
Like, all of that was a niche. This has really brought them out into the light,
Yeah.
especially Western Japan. Like, everyone loves Guilty Gear,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
out here, it's a little bit like less. And this game is just smashing. Hopefully it actually even brings more people to come try out the anime games, so try out different concepts that like Arxis tries on different games, and like people
Relax,
let go.
they're only going to play Dragon Ball, let's be real. Shane likes something. I know it's weird for you too, but Dragon Ball Z, pretty good game.
And Blaze Boo tag fight, yeah.
No one cares.
Video game movies are the impossible dream for Hollywood. While are the next logical thing to adapt after the many successes of novels and comics, the amount of times you've all heard of adaptations stuck in development hell is ludicrous. The ones that escape, however, never really amount to much, barring a couple of notable financial successes. The notion of why video game adaptations don't work has been on my mind lately, thanks to the releases of Tomb Raider, Rampage, and even Ready Player One to an extent. 2018 is the biggest year for game adaptations since 2016, which saw movies based on Assassin's Creed, Warcraft, and Ratchet & Clank, to name but a few. So let's break it down. Why don't video game adaptations work? Well, for one, I don't think it's necessarily the choice of game being adapted or even the talent involved. Because even if you have talented directors, writers, actors, and more working on the biggest franchises, something still doesn't add up. I think a lot of it has to do with a lack of understanding of the material by all parties involved. The truth about most video game stories is that they're just window dressing for the many hours of gameplay you'll experience. Now, this isn't the case for every game story, but you got to look at the games that have been made into movies, and you'll often see a lot where the story just isn't the focus. Now, this may sound like a problem, but if you know the material well enough, you can really make something interesting out of it. For instance, two of my favorite video game adaptations are the first Mortal Kombat and Dead or Alive movies. Now, they are not cinematic high points by any stretch of the imagination, but they're actually pretty great adaptations of their source material, which is to say, flashy, entertaining fights with a basic pretense of a story. Sure, Mortal Kombat has a lot of lore to draw from, and Dead or Alive has a story, but you never really need to worry about it. You've got flashy fights and understanding from everyone involved that you aren't supposed to take it too seriously. It's why these two work as opposed to something like the Tekken or the King of Fighters movies, which either take themselves way too seriously or not seriously enough. But another huge part of why most game movies don't work is that it's kind of hard to disassociate the active interaction, which is the core of gaming. You can't control the pace of a film, but you've got some control over the pace of a game. That story you're supposed to be invested in, you could just put that on hold for hours and then to go sample many other stories, some of which may even be much more affecting and interesting than the main plot thread you're supposed to follow. Interaction is the biggest advantage games have over movies because you've got the potential for stories you can only really tell in games because there are things you directly interact with. The games of Yoko Taro, as an example, have stories that could never really work outside of the medium. If you've never experienced this work, Taro builds a lot of his games around the concept of the story looping. You'll go through the game a number of times, but there's always critical information present in each loop that changes and augments your understanding of the game's story. Now, without getting into really specific examples, they all coalesce with one of the core themes in Taro's work: how games tend to be centered around mass violence and how casually the industry treats it.
殺人鬼ですよね。 100人殺したら、その狂気の沙汰だって思ったんですよ。だからドラゴンドラグーンの時は主人公の軍団を、この狂気の狂った人たちの軍団にした。正しくなくて狂った間違った人たちの話にしようと思って作ったんですね。
You kill a lot in the Drakengard and Nier games, and your reward for the sheer amount of killing you do is non-existent. The further you get into his games and the more you kill, the darker and more cynical his games get. It's something that, with the constant gameplay loops to achieve multiple endings, can't really work in any other medium. Not to mention the final moments in both Nier games don't quite have the same impact if they were to be made into anything but games. Despite all this though, I still hold out hope that it's possible we'll one day see a great video game adaptation without any weird caveats. Because even with the many, many failures we've seen, we're still getting more video game adaptations, such as Ryan Reynolds starring in a live-action animation hybrid of Detective Pikachu movie, and Nintendo are teaming up with Despicable Me and Minions creators Illumination Entertainment to make a Super Mario Bros. Movie. And hell, one of those at least has to be decent, right? Right?
Now, there's been a bunch of blockbuster games come out recently, and then a couple of little ones have kind of crawled through the gaps. And one of those games that came out recently is Extinction, a game made by Modus Games. It's a kind of a mid-range title, sitting in amongst a bunch of blockbusters. How does that bode with the game? Well, I brought Megan in to discuss exactly that. Megan, thank you for joining us. I guess Extinction's in a real tough spot.
It really is.
Coming out, it's in a tough spot.
It's been released in a really competitive landscape with God of War riding on its tails, and
Far Cry 2 weeks ago.
essentially with a price point of $100, you've got to be able to pick them apples of what you're going to invest your sweet hard-earned cash into. And unfortunately, Extinction really, I think, struggles at that price point.
And that is probably its biggest issue. The game itself, obviously, it's a weird kind of tale of. I mean, it's called Extinction, but have you figured out why it's called Extinction?
After a little bit of dabbling, essentially this is an arcadey style monster hack and slash sword game where you're essentially cutting off ogres' heads, and because they've overrun the city of Delorum, and you are a sentinel called Avil that's sent in to protect civilians. And they keep releasing out of this portal, and so it's your job to save everyone's lives, and it's Extinction because I guess you're going to make them all
They're
extinct.
going to die, or they're going to make you extinct.
Hey, but look, the ogre thing, I really couldn't join the dots with the title. It really lost me there. I really think they could have done something better, like Arg, like Buffy. I would have been happy with that.
Like, I guess that is the thing. The gameplay sounds pretty simple. Obviously, there's a pretty huge sense of scale when you're killing the giant ogres and all that kind of stuff. And running around town seems fun. But, I mean, even if they do that well, even if they play that well, it's still a really tough time. You can't, like... Can you get away with full price for a game that seems like it's relatively simple? Yeah.
Essentially, this game really plays to its strengths. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and that gameplay really reflects that. It's a beautiful game. Looks like Fortnite, Overwatch a little bit.
Yeah, that's
beautiful, and every sword slash that you do is gorgeous. Really satisfying slaying those ogres' heads. Essentially, as you're jumping, and boy, do you jump high and far. It's incredible. I think that really makes it feel really floaty, and you know, when you are jumping up that ogre to get that final kill shot, you can slip and there's no traction, and it's kind of a bit glitchy. You get stuck in armpits and crotches. I don't really know what to tell you.
It's all right. I think the Melbourne transport system.
Wow, yeah.
That's all right. Anyway, sorry. Back to the review.
But yeah, essentially the gameplay is fun as you keep on playing. It validates you really, really regularly about giving you skill points to unlock more armor, faster dashing, jumping, everything like that, which is really fun. But nothing's that aesthetic, and you can't play as a girl.
Well, look, I guess that really does kind of sum it up. Is maybe check it out when it's like, you know, it's a little bit cheaper.
Oh,
but
absolutely, that's it. This game is really fun. There are 4 gameplay modes. There's a campaign that lasts for hours. It's literally like 12 hours long. And plus, there's online Extinction mode where it's kind of like hardcore, where if you die, you're dead, like forever.
Yeah.
And then there's daily challenges where you can compare yourself to everyone else in the Extinction world, and other skirmish modes too, which are really fun if you have some mates that also have the game.
So it's not that it's necessarily a bad game. It's just that it's barely positioned and out at the wrong time. Is that fair to say?
100%. Definitely worth a shot.
So Extinction, God bless, they tried.
Yeah, they really did.
And it really is a shame, obviously, when games get killed by their timing, because like we mentioned, big games. But Attack on Titan came out 2 months ago.
Yeah, and Shadow of Colossus wasn't that far away. And I think it really tried to utilize those things that made those games really
good.
Good.
Scale, I guess.
100%, and kind of didn't really get there.
But you got to give props for trying, and again, maybe check it out.
It's a really fun game. I kind of wish it was co-op in the campaign mode as well. Like even just couch co-op or even online co-op. It'd be really sick. Yeah. But yeah, it was still really fun.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps up another episode. We are coming. It is all systems going for BAM as well, so that should be a week from the point that you see this, I believe.
Yep.
So we will all be there. Feel free to come on down, check it out. It's going to be great. We can announce, of course, that Soul Calibur 6 will be there for playable code, so you can come down and try that as well. Try out for Tekken, try out for Street Fighter, meet these great legends.
Don't forget Smash.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be great fun, and we will definitely be there in spades. But until that point, don't forget to check us out at newgameplus.tv. And let's go through the list. Facebook, Twitter,
YouTube,
Twitch,
Instagram,
Instagram.
all over it. Yeah.
We are on Instagram, actually, yeah. New Game Plus TV. That is the end of another episode. Megan, thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you guys next time.